Electricast.
Welcome to Psychic Visions Podcast. This is your host, Jason Zook.
And this is Megan Kane. We're in the midst of a spiritual revolution. Our mission is to share and explore mysteries of the paranormal universe with our guests and you, our listeners, as we discuss healing, spirituality, life after death, and more.
Psychic Visions Podcast, more than meets the eye.
Hey guys, welcome back to Psychic Visions. We're your hosts, Megan
and Jason.
And we're so happy to have you back. I am so excited about tonight's episode because we are going to touch base on our most recent experience with UFOs and ET. We are going to share with you guys even more that we have learned since then. Ever since last week's episode, we both went down the rabbit hole, learning everything that we knew that has happened.
Learning everything and going down the rabbit hole. I'm brushing up on like the Disclosure Project and everything for the last 25 years.
And there's so much information out there. That there's even more information that I didn't even know. And I was connecting the dots. It's so crazy, y'all, because some of the stuff we learned this week was so synchronistic with experiences we've already had, which is so crazy to me. We didn't know we were doing CE-5. So we talked about CE-5 last week, that Stephen Greer does this whole meditation to connect with ET and UFOs and whatnot. But we wanted to look more into it after last week's episode. And we had been invited to these events before with people we know through MUFON, and I had never gone because it was out in Dade City at the time. And it's basically this event where people would sit in a circle, meditate, expand their consciousness, and connect or contact ET. So lo and behold, Jason and we've been doing this, and I've been doing
it instinctively ourselves.
Yeah, intuitively. We didn't even know that's what we were doing. To cut to the chase, last time we saw UFOs, it was because we had the intention to see them. We went out there to my dad's ranch. We wanted to see, yes, shooting stars, but also we were open to seeing UFOs because Jason knew that I had seen them before.
But you're the reason I'm even opened up to UFOs. I don't know if I would have ever been aware of it until you like took the wool over my eyes and allowed me to see what it is and not be afraid to talk about it. Obviously, things have become much more open in the mainstream anyway, but to be able to just say confidently that you and I believe in life beyond our planet and that there's been contact and that it's like ignoring grains of sand at the beach. You have to pay attention to everything.
You can't really see what you want to see. Eventually, you're going to be exposed to things that are going to expand your mind and your perception of things. And that's definitely what happened with us. As you guys know, the first time we went out, we had the intention to see a UFO or an ET or something. And we did. The second time we were out at the ranch, we ended up seeing it. So on the second attempt. So we hadn't really tried to go out really since then with the intention to do that because we've had so many other things going on. And I was pretty satisfied with that experience. But before we recorded last week, we decided we wanted to go out to my dad's ranch. It was a new moon. It was dark out. I knew we could see some cool, maybe shooting stars and see more stars than you normally can. And so we went out there. I picked up Jason.
Let me say this, just to chime in for a second.
Yeah.
If members of our audience don't know what stargazing is, it's time to pay attention because it's such a great thing to be able to get out and see the natural state of the sky without light pollution.
Jason, only you from New Jersey would think that people don't know what star.
Trust me, I'm telling you. I grew up.
Actually, you're right. You're right. No, you're right. My sister from Tampa had never seen a shooting star up until recently. I don't get it. Like I've always looked up at the stars. I've always been obsessed with. My mom would wake me up at 3 a.m. on school nights to watch the meteor shower. So I'm so mind boggled. I guess she didn't do it with my older sister because she's 8 years older.
You didn't have that. You don't have shooting stars. You have landing planes, and there's a lot of commercial activity up there. So you're not
and so much light pollution. You have a lot of light pollution.
Correct.
Yeah. So for people who are listening, who are in the big city and maybe who are so busy that don't get out to nature often, get out there because stargazing, as Jason says, is awesome. And you can see so many stars and see really cool things, especially if you go out on a new moon, you see even more. Even here on Anna Maria Island, where Jason and I go sometimes, it's so dark out there. You can see the Milky Way on a new moon on a good night, especially on the colder nights because there's less cloud cover with the humidity. But anyway, back to our story. So we were out at the ranch. We decided to go out there. when we were going to record because it was just to get in the vibe. We knew we were going to
Was
be
it the
talking.
full moon too, though? We decided
Yeah,
to
it
go.
was the new moon.
Yeah.
There was no light in the sky. So that was our intention, was see shooting stars and also to attract and call any kind of ET or UFO presence. So we go out there, we drive the 45 minutes in my Jeep, and we go out to the property, we go out to the field. On the way, I was intentionally thinking, hey guys, will you please show up for us? One. And two, I was inviting them. And two, I wanted them to heal my stomach. Now, I'd never asked for that before. It had never even occurred to me, you guys. It never even occurred to me to even ask for anything. But I'm going into surgery soon here for a hernia going on. And I was just like, hey, if these beings have had contact with me in the past, and who knows, maybe they've done something with my body before that I don't remember, who knows. But I figured, hey, maybe they can.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is, you've told me in random readings, you probably don't remember because you're in a trance, but maybe they're doing experimental things with your ovaries, your eggs, or maybe they're testing your body in different ways. Some people say that they are helping us, like they're helping us evolve, they're helping us,
Yeah.
grow and heal in different ways. So I like to believe that because I don't have any negative memories from any of my experiences. And I don't feel like anything negative has happened to me.
I just
So
don't
that
feel that they're there to do that, that the interactions you've
right,
had, whatever it is,
it's been
isn't there
positive.
to hurt you.
Everything has been positive for me. So I haven't had any fear associated with them. So I was going with the intention, hey guys, can you do some type of healing on my stomach or prep me for this surgery? I was asking for positive intentions, basically, whatever you want to call it. So I said this in my mind, y'all. So I go, I didn't want to say this out loud to Jason. So we're going in the car and I was going. And so we get there, we get on the property. We're out on the field, like I said. We get out of the car for a second. And then Jason, I don't know if it was the mosquitoes or something, but you wanted to get back in the car.
I felt like something was there watching us. And I know, 'cause let me just paint the screen here, the image here, I should say. Let's just paint the image. Going to your house, your ranch out there, you're going from urban area of Tampa. We're going to a very rural area in Eastern Hillsborough County, which for me is really fun. And then we got to go on these like desolate roads to get to your ranch. And so you set us up to go outside your Jeep. And as I'm sitting there and it was beautiful looking up, I kept sensing like something's there. And I'm not trying to sound like a little kid that's afraid of the dark. I was like, hey, Megan, let's go back in your Jeep. We can look up from your Jeep and see the sky because it's all opened up anyway. You have it convertible.
Okay. So we sat in the car and we put the seats back. We had the top down and it was more comfortable probably anyway than laying on the ground. So we had the seats back. We were looking up and it was beautiful. We could see all different types of constellations up there. When we were laying back, I saw a flash. It was a
We both
bright
did. I saw
flash.
it too.
Both saw it.
It was like this. It was a flash from the middle of that part of the sky you were showing me to look. You saw it first, and you told me to look, and then I saw it too. It did it a few times.
What it looked like was almost like a camera flash going off in a dark concert, like an old camera flash flashing really fast and then going into nothing. So it just was like letting us know we're there, like, hey, like a big flash and then back to black. And it definitely wasn't a shooting star.
What about airplane? How do we just
Definitely not an airplane,
agree?
just because of the size of it and how far away it was. And then just how bright the flash was, and then nothing. And it wasn't heat lightning, guys. It was a small, like I said, like a flash going off. And
Like
then
a flashlight, like a huge flashlight in the sky that did it for a second.
yes, like a flashlight going on and off. And it was between two stars that were there that I've been watching. And I said, Jason, did you see that? You were like, yeah, I saw that. And guys, Jason was recording like pretty much the whole time. He had his phone out and was recording a lot of this. So we do have some of the flash footage from this on his phone that we'll put up for you guys, and we'll have it in like the show notes. So guys, there was a bright flash in the sky and then nothing. And then all of a sudden Jason felt a presence over us that he felt like was.
I looked at the sky and I felt the ship. I felt the energy of it. I felt like
Right.
it was like cloaked. You
Right.
call
You felt like it was
it
cloaked.
cloaking ability. That it blended in with the sky. Like it was something I just sensed and knew through my third eye. Like intuitively, I could sense it was a structure, but to our naked eye, it was hard to see it.
That makes a lot of sense because I could feel it and I felt the presence over us. And then right when I was feeling the presence over us, Jason, you started saying, okay, I see it. And then you started hearing buzzing in your ear.
First off, let me just tell you, when we were doing that, I thought there was, because we're outside, we're in a rural area, and I'm comfortable in your Jeep. And all of a sudden, I thought a mosquito or a gnat was by my ear. And I heard this buzz, but it wasn't that at all. And then it got inside my eardrum. And it was like really strong. And I felt like my psychic senses were being like activated by it. Because I remember telling
Yes.
you, like, what's going on with this loud sound?
Yes.
And we have video of that. It doesn't show it.
Us reacting to it actually.
React
But
to it. Yeah.
that's the thing is I heard the buzzing that one time on the beach, that vibration you're talking about, but I didn't hear
Nothing
it.
else like it. It can't.
Right. Here's the thing, y'all. In the Jeep, I didn't hear the buzzing. He hears the buzzing, but I felt a vibration and a buzzing from hip to hip all through my core. And it was all in my feminine area. And I felt this, it was basically like a really strong chi or Reiki energy. And I felt it vibrating in my hips. I couldn't believe what I was feeling. Simultaneously, Jason is yelling out, he's got a buzzing in his ear and he feels like a vibration. So he's hearing and feeling a vibration. I didn't hear it. I just felt it this time. And it was hip to hip. It was so intense. It was so insane. I knew they were doing exactly what I asked for, which is even more wild.
And you didn't say anything to me about it. We're
no,
to each other.
no. And so I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it hip to hip. And I'm like, oh my God, I could feel it in my stomach. And then it goes up to like where my hernia is, like in my belly button area. And I feel it move up to that area. And then I'm like, oh my God, Jason, I feel it in my stomach. And I was thinking in my mind, they're sending a beam down. I didn't feel like someone was next to me invisible. I felt like there was a beam psychically. I felt like there was a beam being shot down toward my stomach. And that's when you said, Jason, you said exactly, there's a beam coming down to your stomach, guys. So he literally said, there's a beam coming down to your stomach while I was feeling it and thinking that, which was wild. So that was a confirmation for me.
It was crazy too, because I had my eyes, I was closed my eyes, I think at that point, trying to use my intuitive thing to see things.
Yeah, that was intense. So guys, we had another encounter and it was exactly what I prayed for and was thinking about and asking for, was a healing in that area. And that's exactly where I felt the buzzing as we saw the light. And 2 or 3 times it flashed, then the presence was over us. And then I felt the vibrating and the buzzing and the Reiki or whatever that was in my stomach. Simultaneously, Jason's hearing it and feeling it. We both know there's a beam coming down doing it. And then as soon as it's done, boom, there's another flash way up in the sky. Like it was instantaneously up in the sky. It just materialized up in the sky and flashed again. So guys, that was crazy. That was our experience. I never had that experience where I felt them do something like that to my body. I've been frozen. I've been like just in awe, but they've always either stayed far away or just made me feel like, oh my gosh, in shock or in awe. But I've also never asked for anything like that. I've never asked for a healing or asked for a physical sign, which is interesting.
I feel like what we got was very experiential. We had an opportunity to share an experience together that we could share for the show, but more
Mhm.
importantly, our personal experiences, we've evolved. You've got me ready to go see more UFOs. On a ranch tonight, let's go stargazing. That's code word for let's go hunting for UFOs on your family property. Like
Yeah,
I'm all about it. Or let's go to the beach house. That's code name for let's go to Captiva Island or Anna Maria Island, I should say.
that's right. And look for UFOs because that's where we've seen them, is in places where you can have dark skies, where there's not a lot of people, where you can really zone out, tune in, and meditate and bring them in, which it gets to the point of our podcast here, the whole CE-5 movement, which is wild because here, Jason and I, we are doing the CE-5 movement without even knowing it. We're out there basically meditating and inviting them into our space.
Let's share with the audience what CE-5 means, just to, because there might be people that aren't familiar with it.
Yeah. So for those of y'all who are not familiar with CE-5, it didn't even register to me either that it means close encounters of the fifth kind. I thought it was just a really cool acronym for, I didn't know, CE-5, but it means the close encounter of the fifth kind. So for those of you who don't know what the encounters of the first through the fifth kind are, we're going to go ahead and just go over those for you real fast so you get updated on that. A close encounter of the first kind is lights in the sky where it leaves no evidence. A close encounter of the second kind is where you see a UFO, but it leaves some kind of physical trace behind, whether it's burns on the grounds or a crop circle or broken branches, stuff like that. And then the close encounter of the third kind is you are making contact with the UFO. You've seen some type of alien or the UFO or a pilot aboard. You've seen some other type of life form. And then, so that's, you're seeing ETs, the third kind. And then the close encounter of the fourth kind is you've been abducted by a UFO or its occupants, right? The new coined phrase CE-5, close encounters of the fifth kind, I guess the first time it was mentioned was in 1990 in Confrontations, which I think it's a book. And they basically say that it's where people have either been healed or hurt or something has happened to them. They're coming back with evidence on their physical body. So we're talking about healings or implants and stuff like that. So that's what it originally started as. And then Dr. Greer moved it towards and coined the phrase CE-5. And it's more of like where we are initiating contact.
CE-5 to me, it's you meditate and you're meditating with the intention of trying to reach higher life from another planet or
100%. You basically sit in a circle with like-minded people and expand your awareness and invite contact together. And you're supposed to do that with pure love and pure intention and no fear. So you got to leave the fear at the door. So you have to go with an open mind. And if you don't fear them, they don't want to scare you. So you can also ask them like, hey, show yourself in a way that I won't be scared. You can actually,
like a safe place kind of thing.
you can intentionally say, hey, we would love for you to show yourself, but you can also set that intention of what you're comfortable with, I think. We'll post some links, but there's a lot of different meditations that you can do and set your intention with it too if you guys want to try it at home. And there are so many different meetup groups and stuff that you can link up to people in your area with people in your area who are also wanting to do the CE-5 meetup and contact.
Think of it this way. You can get involved with like-minded people, like you said, and meet people in your area that share the interests and the desire to want to hopefully initiate contact and help resolve these lifelong mysteries that a lot of us are very interested in. We've always wanted to know. Humanity's always looked up and said, are we alone? The answer is no, we're not.
And once you have that information, you have that experience, you want to experience it with other people. I know for me, seeing them through the years, I always wanted to show like my next boyfriend. It was like a new boyfriend came into my life and I'm like, oh my God, they have to believe me. They're going to think aliens. Well, of course, I like slow drip them into like my metaphysical world. But usually I'm like, okay, they have to see something with me so they believe me, so they don't think I'm crazy. And thank you to the ET for showing all of my boyfriends something to give them. They all believe in, they all now believe in ghost, mediumship, and ET. So there you go.
I do too.
So yeah, me too.
You got me into that stuff too, is what I'm saying.
So that's what the CE-5 is. And we actually are going to, I think we're going to try to do one here in Tampa at my dad's ranch. We'll try to get some people here locally and do one and see what we can see in a group together. And I always thought maybe in the past, before I like really read up on the CE-5, I thought, oh, maybe it's because if they like the people I'm bringing and maybe it has to be someone they like, but no, it's really for everybody. I think Jason and I went down the rabbit hole after our last episode and I watched so many videos and read so many articles on the Disclosure Project and CE-5, and I learned so much. And there was a lot of weird synchronicities, Jason, that I didn't even pick up on before. Well, I was watching this video today with Dolores Cannon, I think her name is, and she was a hypnotherapist who's into all this stuff. Like she actually contacted aliens through hypnotherapy too. It's a really interesting, there's some really cool books out there, guys, some really interesting videos. But she was saying how abductees come back with these 3 dots, like in a triangle. And it was like, oh my gosh, My friend Veronica, when we got back from the beach, she had these 3 triangle dots show up on her wrist and they kept coming back and she kept sending me pictures. And I thought she was just having bug bites. I was like, okay, like, sure, Veronica. Well, this was before I thought we were getting abducted. I thought we were just frozen. And she had these 3 little dots on her wrist in a triangle, in a perfect triangle. Yeah, we looked it up online and we had seen it was a thing. But just to hear Dolores talk about it in the exact form in a triangle, it was just triggering for me. And I was like, oh my
That's not
God.
serendipity. That's more specific.
It's so specific. And then there was some other things too, like basically asking for a healing. That was another thing. Apparently, I was watching some of the CE-5 meditation groups today, and I saw some other guy asked for a healing, and he could hear, like after he had some type of interaction with an ET, he could hear. I don't know. He prayed for it, and he could hear the next day. It's online. It just was, whoa. I was like, wow, that's so synchronistic for me because that's what happened to me. And I had asked for a healing, and then that's what I got. I'm really interested to investigate this further. I want to do more. I want to do more CE-5 meditations. I want to invite more people with us, Jason. What do you think?
I would love that. I think it's a great idea. I love
Right.
how I feel about this stuff. When I first met you 8 years ago, I didn't have anyone in my life saying, let's go look at the sky and let's see some aliens. I didn't have that. So when we had our first experiences together,
You're welcome.
8 years ago, I didn't expect it to be material for a new show for us or a show that we've been doing for a while. I'm just impressed with the way it's evolved for us. Like to be able to gain the understanding we're gaining from just applying our own psychic abilities and manifestation and meditation. All this stuff's coming full circle for me.
And I think even more for me, even though I've been experiencing these type of phenomenon since I was 18, seeing these videos and seeing all these other people being so comfortable with it and being like in this safe space to do it with other people, and it's not crazy and it's not just me telling a few of my close friends, let's go out to this property and I'll show you something wild. Cool. It's so cool for me that people are being so open-minded about it, and all kinds of people, they're celebrities. Demi Lovato and the guy from Blink-182 and Dan Aykroyd. And there's all these different people who are so into this and participate in these meditations and even fund some of the organizations. So we're going to put a bunch of links down below for you guys in the show notes, like I said, and do some of your own research again and find one in your area. We'd love for you guys to go experience this yourself and let us know. Write us online and let us know your experiences. Jason and I will be hosting a few of these if you're local or want to come down for one. So stay tuned for that as well.
I can't wait. I'm excited about it. I think we've been connecting through higher consciousness, I guess is what it really is. You're utilizing your own gifts and you're tapping into your higher consciousness. And I'm sure they're at that frequency. And if they've evolved to be able to do interstellar travel, then who are we to refute that they can't communicate with us telepathically or through our own meditation and other means as such?
I totally agree.
Here's the one question I want to ask you, Megan. Like when we think about the Disclosure Project or we think about UFO and aliens and everything, just think 40, 50 years ago, you wouldn't have physicians, you wouldn't have PhD people, attorneys, or members of the government, all these people coming forward.
90s is when all this disclosure started happening, and it took this long, 30 years for it to be acceptable to talk about.
And I think even in my own lifetime, I'll be 50 in a year. How scary that sounds. But in my lifetime, I went from watching it on sitcoms to now it's reality. Like this is real big stuff. It's exciting. And I feel like the more we study it and the more we are aware of it, the more open-minded society will become towards it. And then you'll have full disclosure.
Some people just don't want to know, but for those of you who do, those of you who are open-minded to this and who want to know more, the information is out there and we are happy to bring it to you.
I think it's a logical progression for our show to go in this direction. Think about it. We're talking about things that are psychic. We're talking about paranormal things. I feel like UFOs are just, it's so important to make it so it's not paranormal. We've got to be able to remove the stigma from it and allow people to be open. And that's why I'm happy we're having this dialogue for our audience and for others to find out about.
It's mainstream. It's all over. Every news channel is talking about it now. It's everywhere. So definitely, I'm glad we're having these discussions. that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Psychic Visions. We're your host, Megan.
Jason.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, guys. Till then.
Good night. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow Psychic Visions Podcast on Instagram. Psychic Visions Podcast is a production of Electricast Media.
Our executive producers are Mark Netter and Peter Rafelson. If you like our show and enjoy what you hear, please subscribe and give us a rating wherever you enjoy podcasts. And always remember, harness your inner power.
Welcome to Sarah Talk Solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, you've tuned into a bit of a different type of show. I'm Sarah B and I'm your host. You can find me on my IG, which is Aussie_Sarah_LA. I talk about amazing, relevant conversations and topics and what functions that goes on in this magical, wonderful, wonderful city of the City of Angels. My IG, which is Aussie_Sarah_LA.
Have you ever wondered what actually happens in Congress every day? Stay informed on Capitol Hill's daily happenings with a concise, factual summary of the Senate and House of Representatives' activities from the previous session, free from bias, on the Congressional Record Daily Digest podcast. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and discover the process from the heart of U.S. politics. The Congressional Record Daily Digest, an Electricast production.
Electricast. Electricast.